Hey there, Phillips here. This video is going to be on an Unhallowed Essence Multishot build for 2.3. It's basically just a revised version of last patch's build, the standard Unhallowed Multishot, with a few additions. And there's not a lot of flexibility, but there is some options in terms of the stat priority, passives, and cube powers and things like that. So keep that in mind as I'm going through this. This is just a reference, kind of a starting point. You can do your own thing with it and take it from here. So anyways, just jump right in. Based around the Unhallowed Essence set, Multishot set, and the new Yang's Recurve. So this is a new item. It's available on non-season. It's going to make the build just much better. Obviously, I mean, you get the attack speed from the multi-shot and the resource reduction, which helps with your discipline cost. So a big problem for the Unhallowed set in the past is spending all your discipline reduces your damage. So you're in the awkward position to not want to spend discipline, so then you're at a disadvantage on survivability and mobility. So this is going to kind of solve all of that and make the build much stronger and much more fluid to play and just all around better. So it's basically just the same build as, you know, last patch, standard Unhallowed, multi-shot fire. There's a spec, you got evasive fire with focus for 7 hatred. None of the other generators are going to offer that much. Multi-shot arsenal, synergy with ballistics, the damage is going to be unmatched by the others. Running smoke screen and vault for the additional mobility. This is kind of where it's flexible. You can choose one or the other. Generally, I would run vengeance with seethe here for the hatred, but with the resource reduction and the setup that I'm running, I don't really need the hatred generation, so I've just been running smoke screen there. Again, some flexibility. In Greater Rift, you would drop the vault for potentially seethe and then keep smoke screen. It's kind of a preference, but see what you like there and can run either one. Companion with the wolf. Again, with so much resource reduction, the hatred is not that important, at least with this setup. If you were doing Greater Rift progression, you could potentially get value from the bat, but generally the wolf is preferred there. Preparation, invigoration, this is stock, no flexibility. You need that extra discipline for the damage modifier with the Unhallowed Essence set. Tactical advantage for the mobility, ambush for the damage, ballistics for the damage with arsenal, and then blood vengeance for the resources. And some of these passives are flexible. You notice I'm not running awareness. If you were on a hardcore or something, you could just drop tactical advantage for the awareness, you know, sacrifice a little bit of mobility for the survivability there. And a lot of this is flexible. This specific setup I'm running takes a lot of value from blood vengeance, so that's one of the only ones you wouldn't want to drop. But again, you can run other things and drop blood vengeance potentially. So that's the spec. For the cube powers, currently I'm running the solanium, the cinder coat, and the convention of elements. And I like the solanium for torment speed farming because it just produces a bunch of health globes. And this is where I was mentioning the value of blood vengeance. You'll notice I have the Reaper wraps as my bracers, so the health globes are giving me a bunch of hatred and discipline, which is going to kind of pay for the smoke screen and the vault spam when you're running around killing stuff quickly. You're casting those a lot, so your discipline does go down from time to time, and scooping up some health globes and then blood vengeance is going to solve that. Get your discipline back up so that your damage is good. Now I'm going to talk about the itemization and stat priority. It's pretty loose here. When you're doing torment, there's a lot of flexibility. It doesn't really matter. I've been timing some runs and optimizing some setups, and this I really like for torment farming. It makes the build run really smooth. Your itemization is a standard 6-piece Unhallowed. Not really stacking resource reduction. You would normally want to stack a lot of resource reduction, but with so much on the bow already, you're able to kind of prioritize some vitality and some toughness stats to be able to live on Torment 10. So you'll notice I have vitality on the gloves with dual crit. Really nice. Shoulders, going with the resource reduction here, but still kind of toughness based. Cooldown reduction is very weak with this setup, so don't really worry about the cooldown reduction. The helmet, I'm not running multi-shot damage, just because, you know, with higher difficulties and the reduction of damage of monsters, the vitality is more valuable now. Also with the life percent gem, just kind of all adds up to make you a little bit more durable for the torment farming. Chest piece, hatred regen, stats, and then your discipline is going to be the most important thing here. Onto the legs, stock legs here. Stats are standard. You would prefer the armor to be all res. Boots, this is where I do take the multi-shot damage, because there's nothing that's going to give you more value than that. And then on the quiver, again, lacking the resource reduction in favor of vitality, just for the survivability and toughness. Jewelry, for this setup, you would want dual crit and average damage. So like lacking dex, if you're high paragon, you can drop the dex and get dual crit average damage range. But you know, you kind of got to work with what you have. If you're low paragon, the dexterity is still going to have pretty good value. So I'm running the Harrington right now, again for torment farming. For greater rift progression, you can run the Hunter's Wrath, which initially I thought it was pretty bad, but it's actually really good, and it has synergy with passives like Night Stalker, so you can get a lot of value from your generator through that. Other options like for torment farming, if you don't want to worry about clicking on stuff, because the Harrington damage modifier is not incredibly strong, but it is something you can just run with the Witching Hour instead for the torment farming, especially with this setup that I'm running. I don't use my generator that often. I'm basically just spamming multi-shot the whole time and only casting focus for the trigger of the ring. Other options for the bracers are going to be the Wraps of Clarity. If you're lacking toughness, you can use those. And then also the War's Ashen for the movement speed, pretty nice. Personally with this setup, I'm preferring the Reaper Wraps. Bracers, stats, you know, your fire and crit chance, elemental damage and crit chance, and then on your necklace, there's some options for the necklace. Ultimately, you're going to want a Hellfire Amulet with one of the top tier passives. In stat priority, now we can talk about the legendary gems. Currently, for the torment farming, I'm running Bane of the Powerful, Zay Stone of Vengeance, and Bane of the Trapped. Again, there is some flexibility here. For greater rift progression, you would drop the Bane of the Powerful in favor of the Tegek. I mean, the gems are pretty standard. Nothing really changed on that. And paragon points for this setup. Cooldown reduction is less valuable with this setup, so you could skip the cooldown reduction compared to Natalia builds. Defense, bottom to top, skipping life regen, and then here, resource reduction. It doesn't really matter. Now for greater rift progression, the only things I would change here potentially would be the Solanium to the Calamity, and then if you want to go with a tanky setup, you could drop the Convention for Unity, but ultimately you're probably going to need the damage from the Convention. And for passives, changing for progression, you definitely want to work in Cull of the Weak and Awareness. So you drop Tactical Advantage and Blood Vengeance for those two. And if you have a Hellfire Amulet, you can take advantage of either Night Stalker or the Leech. And as I mentioned, the belt for progression, I would use the Hunter's Wrath. That's pretty much it. It's basically just, you know, a revised version of the old build. I just wanted to kind of make the video as a reference, kind of a starting point. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.